Around 150 kilometers west of Port Maputo, South Africa, the remains of a huge metropolis can be found. An ancient site measuring an astonishing 1,500 square kilometers in size, suspected by some to in fact once have been part of an even larger civilization, estimated by some to have been around 10,000 square kilometers in size, and constructed 160,000 to 200,000 years ago. The region is somewhat remote, and the stone circle remnants were only ever encountered by local farmers who assumed they were made by some indigenous people within the past. Amazingly, or rather conveniently, modern archaeology has seemingly forgotten to investigate this amazing place. Fortunately, this all changed when researcher and author Michael Tellinger, in association with Johann Heine, a local fireman and pilot who had actually been looking at these ancient ruins for years, decided to investigate. Heine had the unique opportunity to see these incredible structures from the air and knew that their significance was undoubtedly not appreciated. Quote, "When Johann first introduced me to the ancient stone ruins of southern Africa, he had no idea of the incredible discoveries we would make in the following years. The photographs, artifacts and evidence we accumulated all point towards a lost civilization that precede all others, not for a few hundred years or a few thousand, but many thousands of years." End quote. According to Tellinger, these discoveries are so incredible that they will require a complete paradigm shift in how we view our human history. Quote, "I see myself as someone quite open-minded, but I admit that it took me over a year to figure it out, and I realized that we are actually dealing with the oldest structures ever built by man on Earth. We have been taught that no ancient civilization of significance ever existed within South Africa. Powerful civilizations all emerged in Sumeria and Egypt and other places," Michael Tellinger stated. Regardless of what certain individuals claim regarding the age and indeed size of this site, it is certainly of historical significance, going against all currently upheld understandings of the timelines regarding ancient civilizations within South Africa. As Dan Eden from ViewZone put it, quote, "I would suggest that the Sumerian story was given as a base metaphor for actual ancient cataclysms that caused the diminished planetary resonance and a spiritual injury to the psychoacoustic field of human consciousness." He continued, "The tablets of Sumer describe the Anunnaki as a race of extraterrestrial beings who enslaved humanity for the purpose of exploiting our gold for protective use in the atmosphere of their home planet. I understand the Sumerian mythology as a metaphor for the cataclysmic changes that occurred in the deep human past, which offset the psychoacoustic balance of human consciousness." End quote.
Mohenjo-Daro, once the largest ancient civilization to be found anywhere throughout the entire Indus Valley. Yet its vast cityscapes had lay unknown and undiscovered for over 3 millennia. When in 1921, whilst believing he was excavating the remnants of a Buddhist stupa, Rakhal Das Banerjee would discover what is now believed to have been the home, and indeed the final resting place of some 40,000 souls. Rakhal Das Banerjee, with the help of John Marshall and Ernest Mackay, would over the following years slowly excavate the site, revealing the incredibly ancient undisturbed remains of not only the city itself, but nearly all of its past inhabitants, all of whom, just like that of the more well-known Pompeii, lay strewn across the streets and dwellings, clearly having endured a sudden yet mysterious catastrophic event, or rather incident, which had claimed the lives of many thousands of the city's inhabitants in an instant. Quote, "People were just lying unburied in the streets of what was once a sprawling metropolis. These skeletons clearly thousands of years old." End quote. Taken from the conclusions of the Indian Archaeological Society. One of the puzzling things which the team found strange was the lack of any later disturbances of the remains, which, although one would expect to find remains left untouched and perfectly preserved in such locations as the aforementioned Pompeii. No volcanic activity or indeed ash plumes have ever been present to facilitate this, Yet thousands of individual skeletons, clearly many thousands of years old, lay scattered across the streets of this sprawling ancient metropolis, with some even still holding hands, also having suffered no visible or identifiable injuries. Yet, perhaps most intriguing of all, no scavenging from any nearby animals had later occurred, as if they and the entire area had been avoided. The plot would thicken once analysis of the remains would reveal that they were also incredibly radioactive, with Russian researchers finding radiation levels within some remains still 50 times that of background levels, with the team noting that similar readings had been seen before, yet they were from such locations as Ground Zero within Nagasaki. An additional caveat, which may further indicate what could have happened here, are anomalies later found between the Ganges and the mountains of Rajmahal, which have now been demonstrated to have long ago somehow been subjected to intense heat, with huge masses of ancient, possibly pre-flood walls and foundations in the area once somehow fused together, with many still exhibiting this evidence of an ancient vitrification event into the present day. Did a nuclear explosion somehow go off over this ancient city within Pakistan many thousands of years ago? Well, this is indeed the astounding conclusion of British researcher David Davenport, whom, after having spent over 12 years studying ancient Hindu scripts in an effort to unravel Mohenjo-Daro's mystery, would publish these startling findings within his book, Atomic Destruction in 2000 BC, Milan, Italy, 1979. Quote, "There was an epicenter about 50 yards wide where everything was crystallized, fused, or melted. 60 yards from the center, the bricks are melted on one side, indicating a blast. The horrible, mysterious event of 4,000 years ago that leveled Mohenjo-Daro was recorded in an old Hindu manuscript called the Mahabharata. It states as follows: white-hot smoke that was 1,000 times brighter than the sun rose in infinite brilliance and reduced the city to ashes, the account reads. Water boiled. Horses and war chariots were burned by the thousands. The corpses of the fallen were mutilated by the terrible heat, so that they no longer looked like human beings." The description concludes, "It was a terrible sight to see. Never before have we seen such a ghastly weapon." End quote. David Davenport would declare in 1996, within the conclusion of his in-depth research, that the city was instantly destroyed around 2000 BC. Interestingly, the ancient texts also repeatedly refer to vimanas, flying cars, which flew under their own power and were also utilized during the event. Davenport's intriguing theory has predictably been met with intense and varying forms of interest from the scientific community. Nationally known expert William Sturm, for example, said, quote, "The melting of bricks at Mohenjo-Daro could not have been caused by a normal fire." With Professor Antonio Castellani, a space engineer located in Rome, adding, quote, "It's possible that whatever did happen at Mohenjo-Daro was not a natural phenomenon." Was there an ancient nuclear explosion within modern-day Pakistan? Were there many of these similar events throughout the world? It would indeed explain the many other ancient and seemingly melted, fused, or oftentimes vitrified ruins I have previously identified and shared from all over the planet. What happened to Mohenjo-Daro, and indeed its thousands of inhabitants? It is a mystery which I find highly compelling. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to support my controversial research here upon YouTube. Thank you. There are many astounding ancient wonders still to be found, scattered all over India. Many of which I have long decried are merely claimed as that of another's creation and accomplishments. These academic alibis, as I often point out, lacking any substantive proof for such declarations to have ever been made officially. Neither a valid explanation as to how these achieved, nor types of tools ever located which they must have utilized in creating them. Yet, I feel most crucial of all, lacking any demonstrable proof exhibited or even conceptualized as to how our more recent, more primitive ancestors accomplished such feats. Often overlooked, sometimes ignored, yet it never provided, all in favor of the official yet clearly faulty narrative. This lack of an explanation, as if it all a cruel trick, provided to the masses by the exact same individuals whom are tasked and funded to provide just this. It is, as mentioned in reality, an elaborate conspiracy in and of itself, one created to obscure the true story of these ancient achievements. A hidden world just waiting for us to unravel, to tell us a far greater, far more profound, and indeed far deeper story of our past, but even possessing secrets etched into their very being, their aesthetic and original purpose of design. A message left for the time when we have the eyes to see it, one which may finally reveal to us all, once and for all, just who we are and where we came from. And our next site of intrigue is of no exception. Known as Lohagad, or the Iron Fortress, it is located over 1,000 meters above sea level and some 3 kilometers from the once inexplicably yet perfectly sculpted Baja Cave system. It unarguably yet another feather in the cap of this now lost, yet once world-going civilization, which although many would indeed still persist in claiming their works a mere 1,000 years old, Lohagad, for example, although handed down through varying dynasties within this tiny window of the studied ages, shares all these same hallmarks, which alas, due to this tale told by the victor, yet another long-lost ruin successfully hidden in plain sight. The entire structure constructed without the use of mortar, with perfectly placed yet seemingly random cut blocks, creating a borderline polygon finish, which, like that of the many ancient fortresses I have found and shared here upon our channel throughout ancient Peru, for example, also exhibiting the same uncanny mastery of these ancient builders in effortlessly incorporating the builds into the surrounding environment, ingeniously utilizing natural mountain faces and hillsides to their strategic advantage. This mastery of gravity and indeed stone masonry is an enigma which had long baffled all who had encountered these structures. This healthy curiosity remained until very recently into the modern age, as for some possibly insidious reason, subsequently and systematically pinned to civilizations found only within a permitted timeline of events, attributed to known, yet nearly always clearly incapable groups of ancestors. Thus, the true mystery surrounding how they have survived so long, how old they could really be, or indeed how they were once constructed, for one reason or another, the powers that be have endeavored to keep this truth hidden, to quash the mystery and curiosity therein. Thus, they are mostly never realized, nor truly appreciated for what they really are. Who built Lohagad? When did they build it? How did they build it? Is it as the characteristics and similarities presented, with its hard-to-reach yet strategically placed location, its mind-boggling accuracy, and its naturally blending construction method, all proof of a pre-flood ruin? More study into its possible true age and prehistoric origins is surely needed to fully establish just who built this place. I will keep you posted on any further developments. It is a possible pre-flood ruin, which I find highly compelling.